going into Uprising 1, it was definitely a real scary moment for everybody involved. But it was British Uprising, so it made sense for the main event to be two British talents. And at that point in time, my genuine belief is that the two best guys in the country were Flash Barker and Jody. You had Flash Barker, who was recognised by the old school, but bridged that gap between old school and new school, that could do that style, but was still accepted by the guys who were saying new school's rubbish. And then you had Jody, who was as new school as they came, but at the same time, even the people who didn't really like the new school would say, oh, you know, that Jody's got something. So going into it, there was a hell of a lot of anticipation. The main thing that I remember from the match itself was I was stood backstage and I was next to Jerry Lynn. They were doing their stuff they were doing. You know, when you've got those two in the ring with a ladder, you know, you've got to expect a lot of crazy stuff. And I remember watching them go through the crowd and Jody climbing up the ladder onto the balcony. Jerry Lynn's with me, and I thought, man, is he going to do something crazy off the balcony?
You know, we had to go and follow Johnny Storm and AJ Styles, and I thought, oh, here we go. How do you top that?
Jody being completely mental and jumping off a balcony.
I would say Jody Fleisch jumping off the balcony.
And then I saw Jody Fleisch jump off the balcony.
Sight to behold, really.
It was exciting and scary at the same time.
Why would Jody Fleisch be climbing to the balcony?
I don't know, Tony. All I know is the higher Jody goes, the further he can fly.
Nick, you can see how far up he was. What on earth could he be thinking? No.
Oh, wait a minute. FWA! Tony Giles, my lord!
I am virtually speechless. Listen to the crowd, listen to the fans.
That incident with Jody is probably one of the most vivid memories in my life. I stood there and I watched him balancing on the edge, and then suddenly, before anyone knew what was coming, he'd springboarded onto the top of the barrier and then did the moonsault back, and just phenomenal. One of the most amazing moments in FWA history. I think Jody winning the match was probably, for me, a real. That was FWA really putting a stamp on what we were doing as a product and saying, look, British wrestling has had an amazing history and an amazing heritage, but now it's time to step it forward with a new generation of stars and the crowning. And I think, for me, I'm very much into symbolism, and there was nothing more symbolic than Jody Fleisch climbing up the ladder and grabbing the FWA British Heavyweight title and saying, this is for the new generation of British wrestling. It's the crescendo of the first Uprising show at York Hall, Bethnal Green, and I can see why people see it as out of our top 50 moments, why this would be number one.